Yeah, I think just what you said, it's interesting. And the same thing is like, for instance, if you look at buildings, you look at new modernist buildings, they're box usually gray, white, and so on.
Mhm.
You look at these old buildings and you look at all of these ornaments, it tends to be something that does captivate your
Mm.
attention. And I think that's the same with oxygen. Obviously, it is a product of its time. And if you look at some things, you wouldn't quite design it that way
Right,
today,
sure.
but I think it still looks good as a whole, that it's coherent, and I think there also might be also, yes, this nostalgia element.
Mm.
Just, we all grew up with Windows Vista, Windows 7. We're pretty impressed by this Aero design. But I have to mention that the lead designer, Nuno Pinheiro, has also been working on this. It's been great to actually get in touch with the man himself. He says it wasn't really inspired by that. It
Mm.
was its own thing. It is an articulation of its time, but it
Right.
wasn't. They were doing their own thing. Yeah.
Sure, I don't think it's, trying to be a clone of Vista. It's obviously not trying to be that. If you look at it, it's very
Mhm.
clearly its own thing. But contemporary design of the time was more in line with what Oxygen is, right? It's when everything else at that time has this similar sort of design language, it makes sense it's going to share some of those similar sorts of ideas.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And what you said about, like, for instance, with icons is also an important aspect, because now when we're working with Nuno, and you see how much work it is to actually create a skeuomorphic icon.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and you can create a symbolic, like one of those monochrome icons, really fast. But it really takes its skill, and it takes a lot of time. Yeah.
Yes, so okay, on the second post you had some of the icon examples. Yeah, I am looking at the dolphin example. Yeah. Yeah, that I can see the problem with the what's the compass used for?
Compass is actually used for the places icon in the panel. So right now, if you switch to oxygen icons, you get a mismatch. And that's another big topic
Mm.
that actually came up, is how do we fix them up? Because it's also sort of not a complete experience. If you have a colorful icon here, a monochrome icon there, it just looks unpolished. And,
Mm.
and this is a result of many things. One thing is that in Plasma 6, Plasma themes can't ship icons anymore,
Mm.
right? So if you're using them in the panel, you're now relying completely on the icon theme. So the icon theme now has to pull all of this weight.
Mm.
And the thing with Oxygen is that it reserves these regular icon names. So for
Mm.
instance, I don't know, places or whatever, application/menu,
Mm. Mm.
for colorful icons. And in Plasma code, you have this mix of code that's calling regular icons and symbolic icons. And in Breeze, they're all, in effect, they're all monochrome, so
Mm.
it's not a problem. But with oxygen, you get this mismatch. But with plasma 6.7, that's also something we've been working on, and that a lot of progress has been made. So when oxygen icons gets released, I should maybe say that it's on its own release cycle.
Mm.
So
Mm.
there's KDE frameworks, and probably I think the latest version is 6.25, but oxygen icons is going to be 6.2,
Mm.
and it's going to come around like Plasma 6.7 time. And then once you update on Plasma 7, because we needed to make changes to Plasma code, you'll get a much, much better experience. So things should be consistent,
Mm.
like all of the icon types.
So, what sort of state were the icons in? Like, oh, you mentioned that there was this like symbolic mismatch. If you had tried to just use the oxygen icons as it is, like, could you even use them? Like, was there anything, like, was it just so different that it just couldn't be done like initially?
You could use them, but there was this issue with mismatch, symbolic, non-symbolic, and then for every icon that doesn't exist in Oxygen, you got to fall back to Breeze. So you
Mm.
also get mixed with Breeze icons that didn't obviously feel quite, it's a completely different style.
Right.
So this was the main thing here, was just adding some of these missing icons to Oxygen. Some of them were also low resolution. So this was also been work with trying to provide bigger PNG sizes. But yeah, but the most important thing is for Plasma Code, and this is why it's great to be a part of the KDE community, is because we can communicate with fellow developers. I asked, does this make sense for you? Can we change the code so it's symbolic? And sure, they said yes, and everyone's always glad to help out.
Mhm.
Oxygen really benefits from in that sense from being a part of this ecosystem.
You mentioned the icons were small. Were the source files for the icons still around?
Yes, so so Oxygen is different in the sense that it has SVG sources, but then it just renders them as PNGs at different sizes. According to Nuno Pinheiro, the idea here is that it's cheaper to render PNGs than do SVG rendering.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
sometimes some icons were rendered at, I don't know, 30.32, but you have this place that wants 64 by 64, and what does it do? It just uses 32 by and upscales it, and then you get a blurry look. So that's one of the issues. But something wonderful that happened is that we also got some new contributors. One of them is Pravin Kumar, who has been really of tremendous help here, locating these sort of places and sending in patches as well. So I think really by 6.7, this is going to be so much better.